Family court puzzle. Where to make your complaint. File a complaint. Civil court has family court, child support, juvenile court, guardianship court, child welfare system if we're dealing with CPS. So think about it. Civil court, Department of Civil Rights, right? It's a civil court. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex. So if you're a male or you're a female, right? In my case, I'm a female, and my ex was held to a different standard. So I was, I had a personal protection order against him. He was never given supervised visits. He was never sent to a supervised program. And when he ended up getting custody of the kids, I was sent to all this stuff. They made me take a psychological evaluation. They made him go to counseling. If not, they're going to fine him $500, and he never went. So he never went to counseling. He never, got a psych eval either, but they had me do that. So if they're not having him do that and they're having me do that, they're definitely targeting me, right? And I just did a report on women in the family court system. I just did a PowerPoint about it and how men are sexually abusing children and domestic violence and having guns when they're not supposed to, and they're not jailed or anything like that, but women are. So you're going to want to check that out. So another thing as well, if you're in the court system and they have a guardian ad litem come into your case, right? As like in my case, the guardian ad litem came in and, she was advocating for the dad, right? She wasn't advocating for me. So my civil rights were violated. I didn't actually get the fair trial of a court or the information in the court based on the guardian ad litem and her recommendations. And the civil court is the one that put her into my case. So therefore the civil court is the one that's responsible, right? I know when I was in court, I asked for her credentials and she said, the judge knows my credentials. Now she sat on a committee and she helped write a bench book for judges for domestic violence. And so she knows that my ex-spouse was not supposed to have unsupervised visits, let alone custody. She knows this. I don't know if she knows I know this. But so she was sat on that committee. So she knows all this stuff, but she wasn't doing any of this stuff. So when you file a complaint, make sure you're putting that stuff in there. And then with my case, I'm pretty sure my guardian ad litem sold my ex-spouse custody. I'm not sure if I've done a video on that yet. I'll have to check and see. But anyways, if she did sell him custody, right? So it's a financial crime. In other words, it's money laundering. So money laundering. Did you know the IRS investigates law firms because a lot of money laundering is done out of them? So it's called pre-washing, right? So criminals deposit their illegal gotten gains into banks or fake accounts that can't be back to trace to the legal fees. So think about it. If you're an attorney, right, and you represent someone in divorce, well, you just say that, oh, they're paying an extra $10,000, right, which they're just laundering that $10,000 through there. Or there was a drug charge, and you went and represented them, right? And they just launder an extra, $50,000 through there. So they're going to give the attorney, say the attorney bill is $70,000 when it was only $20,000, right? And then they take that money and they give them $50,000 back. So here's an interesting that I came across that a lot of people didn't know, and I didn't really know either. But the judges' canons, right? Believe it or not, the Code of Canon Laws, I've got a little link there to it. But the canon laws actually come from priest laws, from Catholic priest, right? So their code of conducts come from priests, and when I was trying to hold my judge accountable, I didn't know this. But if you go to the canon laws for priests, the book 6 penal section in the church, you will actually be able to see the laws. Now, here's what's interesting. So you know how you have all these priests who are sexually abusing kids, right? they don't get rid of them. They just switch them to like a different courthouse. Actually, it's the same thing with your judge. They'll just switch them to a different courthouse, or not a different courthouse, a different position. With my research into these politicians, if they're like not running, or they ran for like a senator, right? And then what they'll do is they'll just put them in another position. I think sometimes they're made up positions. Sometimes they sit on these boards, which these boards don't ever do anything. But I think they're sitting on these boards, and I think they're getting paid a huge amount of money, to go sit on a board that you only maybe 2 or 3 times a year go sit on this board and actually ever do anything. So when you're filing these complaints and stuff, you want to also talk about the torture. And here's some of the torture laws. Now, this says the statute applies only to acts of torture committed outside of the United States. But here's the thing. If you have a case and you're meeting all these requirements, but that one requirement, right? And you're, not out of the United States. But if you go down further, jurisdiction over such acts, whether the perpetrator is a national of the United States or the alleged offender is found within the United States. So when you think about it, I don't want to go into that. So, if your judge is not following laws, and if they're torturing you, technically they're considered a terrorist, right? So I don't know if there's a way you can somehow flip it to they're a terrorist and therefore you're an American and terrorizing you. Now, you can't use anything like that the court is using to say that the court is terrorizing you with their laws. But there's other things that they can do to be terrorizing you, like allowing your former spouse or lover, child's baby mama or baby daddy, right? Allowing them to abuse you, so you have a personal protection order, right? They violate that, you go into court, they slap them with a $25 fine. Really? Come on now, right? So they're allowing them to continue to torture you and do all this stuff, right? So if a judge is doing that, I would think it would be considered treason. So you might have to look up some treason laws. So anyways, I am DK. I'm a family court certified trauma coach, and I hope you found this educational.